Greetings, beautiful people. Across all cultures of the world, there is a shared idea of a hidden eye, one capable of seeing beyond what we perceive with physical sight. From ancient temples to initiatory teachings, this eye has been considered the key to wisdom, intuition, and access to invisible realities. In ancient times, it was regarded as a subtle organ of perception, the direct link between the soul and the universal source of knowledge. Today, the third eye continues to fascinate, both through its symbolism and through its connections to anatomy, spiritual traditions, and unexplained phenomena. In this documentary, we will travel through history, mythology, science, and sacred practices to understand why this symbol has endured for millennia and what real power it may conceal. The earliest clues about the existence of an eye of the soul appear long before classical civilizations, in prehistoric artifacts, and in the sacred architecture of vanished cultures. At certain megalithic sites in Anatolia and the Near East, carved stones have been discovered with oval shapes and concentric circles interpreted by archaeologists as early representations of the eye. At Göbekli Tepe, a sanctuary more than 11,000 years old, some pillars bear engravings with ocular symbols, integrated into scenes with animals and human figures, a sign that this motif carried spiritual meaning from the very dawn of civilization. In Mesopotamia, Sumerian and Akkadian cylinder seals often depict figures with intense gazes, accompanied by rays or halos around the forehead. Some researchers suggest these rays symbolize a form of inner perception associated with divinities. In pre-dynastic Egypt, before the unification of the kingdom, stylized eye amulets already appeared in tombs, used for protection and for guiding the soul into the afterlife. Less well known is the fact that in the Cucuteni Tripilia culture from the Carpathian Danubian region, ceramic vessels and anthropomorphic figurines sometimes display ocular symbols painted in the forehead area. These could represent an early variant of the third eye idea, connected to fertility rituals and contact with the forces of nature. These archaeological traces show that the idea of a sacred eye did not emerge in a single culture, but was present simultaneously in different forms in multiple regions of the ancient world, indicating a common root far older than previously believed. In India, the earliest references to what is now called the third eye appear in the Upanishads, texts composed more than 2,500 years ago. Ajna Chakra, described as a two-petaled lotus located between the eyebrows, is presented as a center of intuition and as a point through which Amrita flows, a subtle nectar considered nourishment for the immortal soul. In some rare versions of the Yoga Sutras, there are passages stating that the one who masters the light between the eyebrows enters the hidden lands of the gods, a formulation interpreted by some scholars as a description of parallel worlds. In ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus, Ujat, was a protective symbol and a tool for spiritual navigation in Duat, the realm of the beyond, according to the pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead. The geometric proportions of the Eye of Horus correspond to fractions used in mathematics and medicine, with each part of the eye representing a sense, smell, hearing, taste, sight, touch, while the forehead area is linked to mental perception and cosmic understanding. In the Tibetan tradition, Dzogchen teachings describe the gate of light, located between the eyebrows, the place where the energetic channels Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna meet. Certain manuscripts preserved in isolated monasteries mention visualizing a blue sphere at this point, which begins to pulse and radiate in the state of Rigpa, the recognition of the mind's pure nature. In early Christianity, the Gnostic Gospels speak of the eye of the heart and the inner light. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus states, "When your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. The writings of Origen and other mystical theologians present this eye as the organ of the soul that perceives divine truth through direct contact with the spiritual source. In the Middle Ages, some Christian authors associated this eye with a particular area of the brain, symbolically identified as the innermost chamber of the temple. In Mesoamerican traditions, rare chronicles mention Toltec priests who wore blue paint on their foreheads during rituals, a color associated with opening the gate to Tonal, the world of order, and Nagual, the world of spirit. In certain codices, the eye symbol appears alongside a spiraling serpent, an image suggesting the ascent of energy along the spine toward the forehead, analogous to Kundalini descriptions from India. These sacred sources, spread across different places and eras, converge on the idea of a central point of spiritual perception seen as a source of clarity, knowledge, and access to higher realities. In the human body, the point considered to be the seat of the third eye is the pineal gland, a small cone-shaped structure located deep in the brain between the two hemispheres in the region where the two halves of the thalamus meet. Its size is approximately 5-8 millimeters, yet the importance attributed to it in spiritual traditions far exceeds its known role in physiology. The pineal gland is made up of tissue similar to retinal tissue, containing primitive photoreceptor cells. In the embryo, this tissue develops from the same brain region from which the eyes also form, and in the early evolutionary stages of some reptiles and amphibians, the gland is directly connected to the surface of the head through a cranial opening, functioning effectively as a third eye, sensitive to light. In humans, the pineal gland is traversed by a rich blood flow greater than that of any other brain area relative to its size, which makes it extremely receptive to chemical changes in the body. It is covered by a more permeable blood-brain barrier, allowing certain substances to influence it more directly. Research less discussed in the public space has shown that the pineal gland contains microscopic crystals of apatite and calcite structures capable of vibrating and producing piezoelectric effects. These crystals react to electromagnetic fields and pressure variations, leading to the hypothesis that the gland could function as a kind of biological receiver or emitter. In energetic anatomy, the position of the pineal gland corresponds to the ajna center in yogic tradition and also to the chamber of light in Taoism, the place where qi gathers before being projected into the rest of the subtle body. In some mystical schools, this area is considered the interface between the material plane and the informational plane of the universe. The pineal gland produces several chemical substances with a direct effect on perception, states of consciousness, and biological cycles. The best known is melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating the circadian rhythm. Melatonin levels rise with darkness and fall in the presence of light, influencing sleep, cellular regeneration, and certain healing processes. In spiritual traditions, these periods of peak secretion are considered favorable for deep meditation. An important precursor of melatonin is serotonin, a neurotransmitter that influences mood, concentration, and perception. In the pineal gland, serotonin undergoes chemical transformations depending on light signals and the mental state, and under certain conditions of meditation, sensory isolation, or controlled breathing, this transformation is accelerated. A substance of major interest in connection with the third eye is N-dimethyltryptamine, DMT, a molecule with a powerful psychoactive effect produced naturally in small quantities in the body. Laboratory studies on animals and indirect research on humans suggest that the pineal gland could be a main center of DMT production, especially in extreme situations: birth, clinical death, and intense mystical experiences. Recent analyses have found in the pineal gland small concentrations of beta-carbolines compounds that act as natural inhibitors of the monoamine oxidase MAO enzyme, which normally breaks down DMT rapidly. Their presence indicates the possibility that the body can prolong the effects of DMT under certain circumstances, which could explain the visionary experiences reported in deep spiritual states. At the neurophysiological level, pineal activity is closely linked to the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, forming a neuroendocrine triangle that regulates both biological functions and emotional responses, as well as states of consciousness. In esoteric traditions, this link is seen as an energetic axis through which subtle information becomes conscious experience. In Hinduism, Ajna Chakra is described in yogic texts as a center of higher perception, located between the eyebrows and represented by a two-petaled lotus. In certain lines of initiation, each petal symbolizes an energetic channel, Ida and Pingala, that meet here before uniting with Sushumna, the central channel. Lesser-known manuscripts from Shaivite tradition mention rituals of anointing, this point with consecrated oils prepared from sandalwood, camphor, and rare herbs to intensify the energetic vibration. In Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, opening the gate between the eyebrows is associated with entering the state of Togao, an advanced Dzogchen practice in which spontaneous visualizations of light and geometric forms become a direct path to realizing the nature of mind. In some isolated Lama series, masters instruct disciples to spend long periods in total darkness, a practice called Yang Ti, said to activate the subtle perception of the inner eye. In Taoism, the point between the eyebrows is called the Crystal Hall or the Jade Palace, and is seen as a command center of internal energy. Texts of inner alchemy, Nidan, recommend concentrating on this point in order to coagulate light and direct it through subtle channels. In some Taoist schools, activating this center is closely tied to synchronizing the breath with the heartbeat, a method transmitted only to advanced disciples. In the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece, initiates experienced expanded states of consciousness through a sacred mixture called kaikion. Although sources are fragmentary, there are hypotheses that this ritual, combined with the symbolism of the Eye of Zeus, present on some ceramic vessels, represented a ritual form of opening inner perception. In shamanic traditions of Siberia and Mongolia, the point between the eyebrows is considered the spirit gate, and shamans sometimes mark it with ash from a sacred fire or with red plant-based paint. This mark serves to attract and stabilize inner vision during spiritual journeys. All these initiatory traditions use different methods: meditation, sacred plants, light and darkness rituals, energetic exercises, but they pursue the same goal: moving perception beyond the limits of ordinary senses and accessing direct knowledge. The third eye is a sensitive center connected both to biological mechanisms and to subtle structures of consciousness. Its functioning depends on several internal and external factors that are not present continuously. In the body, pineal activity follows natural rhythms linked to light, temperature, and internal chemical balance. In ordinary states of agitation or exhaustion, these rhythms are disrupted, and subtle perception diminishes.
On the energetic level, perception through the third eye appears when the body's energy flow is harmonized. Emotional imbalances, stress, and chaotic thinking alter this flow and reduce the sensitivity of the ajna center. In addition, certain experiences perceived through this eye require the capacity to interpret and integrate information. Without preparation, what is received may remain fragmented or unclear. There is also a natural protective component. the organism and the energetic field automatically filter access to levels of perception that could cause shock or confusion. This filter relaxes only in moments of deep balance, in well-guided practices, or in special circumstances, which explains why access is not constant. Understanding these conditions makes controlled activation of the third eye a process of cultivation. The third eye is presented in most traditions as a channel of expanded perception, capable of granting access to information beyond the realm of ordinary senses. One of the most frequently mentioned abilities is clairvoyance, the perception of images, scenes, or events from the past, present, or future without physical means. In some spiritual schools, this ability is used for energetic diagnosis, guidance in important decisions, or exploration of subtle realms. Another ability is perceiving the aura, the energetic field surrounding living beings. Advanced practitioners describe variations in color, density, and luminosity that reflect a person's emotional, mental, and physical state. In Tibetan traditions, this perception is used in energetic healing and in recognizing a practitioner's level of consciousness. Vision into parallel planes is another attributed capacity, involving perception of realities that coexist with the physical one. In initiates' accounts, this means access to the spirit world, to energetic structures of places, or to imprints left by past events. In Western esoteric traditions, this ability corresponds to seeing in the astral. Non-linear perception of time is a less discussed trait. Practitioners describe the feeling that events do not unfold in a straight line, but can be accessed as points on a network, with the possibility of perceiving multiple moments at once. In some cultures, this perception is used to understand cause and effect links on a far broader level. Another aspect is connection to universal sources of knowledge. In India, this phenomenon is described as access to Akasha, an informational field where all events and thoughts are recorded. In other traditions, this ability corresponds to direct dialogue with spiritual guides or beings of light. In certain cultures, the third eye is considered a tool of protection. In ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus was worn to repel negative influences, and in Asian traditions, the eye symbol on the forehead is used to see and neutralize invisible dangers. In many sacred traditions, activating the third eye is viewed as a process of complete inner transformation, not as an isolated exercise. In classical yoga, practitioners focus their attention on the area between the eyebrows, with the inner gaze gently oriented upward, sometimes after fixing their eyes for a few minutes on a candle flame until its image appears on the inner screen. In Tantra, practitioners visualize a luminous indigo sphere that expands and pulses with each breath, creating the sensation of opening and entering a vast space. Controlled breathing plays an essential role. In yoga, alternate nostril breathing or breath retention after inhalation are techniques used to balance the energy flow between lateral channels and to bring energy onto the central channel where the ajna center is located. In Tibetan tradition, there is a method called vase breathing, in which the diaphragm creates subtle internal pressure, pushing energy toward the forehead. Sound vibrations are another tool of activation. The mantra Om is chanted for an extended time, and in some tantric schools, each vowel in Aum is emphasized differently to stimulate distinct areas of the brain. In Taoism, the sound Ng is prolonged until the frontal sinus area begins to vibrate. In ancient Egypt, sacred formulas were intoned on tones that caused resonance in the bones of the skull, a technique believed to amplify pineal sensitivity. There are also methods based on the position of the eyes and eyelids. In the practice called Shambhavi Mudra, the eyes are slightly open, and the gaze is directed toward the center of the forehead without focusing on external objects. Combined with slow breathing and relaxed attention, this posture creates a subtle, energetic pressure in the third eye area. Some initiation lineages use natural substances for purification and stimulation. In India, sandalwood oil mixed with camphor powder and rare plants is applied to the forehead to intensify energetic vibration. In shamanic traditions, fumigations with sacred resins such as copal or frankincense are used, meant to open the spirit gate. There are also practices of retreat into total darkness, found in Tibet, Mexico, and ancient China. Complete isolation from light for several days causes the pineal gland to naturally produce substances that alter consciousness, facilitating the emergence of inner visions. This method is considered one of the most powerful and is reserved only for advanced practitioners. In ancient Egypt, initiates used alternations of light and darkness, spending hours in stone chambers with small openings that allowed sun rays to enter at certain intervals. The pulse of light was perceived with eyes closed and accompanied by recitation of sacred formulas in rhythm with the heartbeat. In the Pythagorean schools of Greece, disciples were trained to fix their attention on the reflection of the moon in water and to observe how the image subtly distorts under the movement of waves. Concentration on these visual transformations induced a fluid state of consciousness, preparing the mind for subtle perception. In early Vedic traditions, a practice called Triphala Drishti trained the gaze to orient simultaneously forward, upward, and inward. Eye movements were synchronized with breathing and fine head rotations, opening the way for the appearance of inner light. On Polynesian islands, shamans sat on the ocean shore at sunset, covered their eyes with their palms, and focused attention on the forehead area. The wind and the rhythm of the waves acted as a sonic background that calmed the mind and favored the emergence of inner visions. In Druidic tradition, an exercise called spiral breathing combined body movement with work on the ajna center. Air was inhaled as the body slowly rotated to the left and exhaled during rotation to the right, while maintaining inner attention fixed on the point between the eyebrows. This bodily spiral created an ascending energy flow, connecting the forces of the earth with those of the sky. Modern and experimental methods of activating the third eye combine findings from neuroscience, sensory stimulation technologies, and adaptations of traditional practices. Some research centers use binaural sound frequencies designed to synchronize the brain's hemispheres and induce states of consciousness favorable to subtle perception. These frequencies are calibrated around theta and gamma bands, associated both with deep meditation and spontaneous visionary states. Stimulation with intermittent light is another method used in laboratories. A device like the Dream Machine, or modern photostimulation tools, projects light impulses directly onto closed eyelids, creating geometric forms and colors on the mind's inner screen. Combined with rhythmic breathing, this type of stimulus can activate brain areas associated with the pineal gland. Neurofeedback technology allows users to observe their brain activity in real time and learn to modify it. Practitioners who manage to maintain specific brainwave patterns report increased clarity of inner visions and heightened sensitivity to subtle information. Some experimental protocols include low-intensity transcranial magnetic stimulation applied to the midline frontal area to increase electrical activity in regions associated with attention and unusual perception. This technique is still in the research phase and is used only in controlled settings. In the field of supplements, there is interest in substances that might support pineal function, such as antioxidant-rich extracts, tryptophan-containing foods, or compounds that reduce calcium deposits. These approaches are often combined with detox-style diets meant to eliminate substances that affect pineal sensitivity. There are also hybrid practices that combine guided meditation with virtual reality. Participants are exposed to landscapes and sacred forms projected in a VR environment, while the visual stimulus is synchronized with sound vibrations and breathing exercises, creating an immersion that stimulates the forehead area and favors the emergence of inner imagery. Initiatory experiences associated with opening the third eye share a clear shift in perception, regardless of the method used. The first signs reported by practitioners include a slight pressure in the forehead area, waves of warmth or coolness, fine vibrations, and a sensation of inner expansion. As the process deepens, these physical manifestations are accompanied by the appearance of an inner light, perceived as a sphere, a star, or a formless luminous space that seems to pulse in rhythm with breathing and the heartbeat. In later stages, attention becomes stable, and the mind enters a state of intense clarity. Spontaneous images appear geometric structures or symbolic scenes that transmit direct understanding without verbal reasoning. Ordinary senses seem to withdraw, and perception shifts to an inner plane where information is experienced more as a state than as a thought. Some describe the sensation of being present in multiple places at once, with an expanded awareness that includes both the physical body and subtle spaces. Time seems to flow differently, and events arrange themselves into a network of connections visible instantly. In this state, thinking becomes faster, clearer, and oriented toward what truly matters. These experiences are often followed by a period of deep inner stillness, in which attention remains centered and mental flow is reduced to what is strictly necessary. This is the point at which many practitioners say perception through the third eye is no longer an effort, but a natural state that arises on its own. Risks and imbalances associated with activating the third eye are rarely discussed in depth, although many initiatory traditions mention them in the form of warnings. The most evident are physical and psychological, but there are also subtle energetic effects that old schools considered equally important. Forced or unprepared activation can cause overstimulation of the pineal gland and the central nervous system. Physically, this can manifest as persistent headaches, constant pressure in the forehead area, sleep disturbances, and fluctuations in body temperature. In some cases, palpitations appear, along with fine trembling of facial muscles or sensations of nausea and dizziness caused by an imbalance between brain activity and the energetic body. Psychologically, risks include uncontrolled hallucinations, the intensification of latent fears, and amplification of existing emotional instability. The mind can become hyperactive, generating a constant stream of images and thoughts that quickly exhaust the person. Those without a stable meditative foundation may confuse authentic visions with imagination, leading to wrong interpretations or loss of discernment. Energetically, old traditions warn of the phenomenon of energy leakage, a sensation of rapid depletion after activation, accompanied by low vitality and a weakened protective field. In some cases, disharmonious activation may attract interactions with dissonant, subtle influences, perceived as disturbing presences or as intense unease without a clear cause. Another risk is imbalance between the third eye and the other energy centers. Strong inner perception, without grounding through the lower centers, can lead to loss of contact with concrete reality. In this state, decisions may become impulsive or based solely on subtle signals without logical verification. Over the long term, incorrect practices can lead to dependence on visionary experiences. The practitioner constantly seeks stimulation of the ajna center, neglecting the overall balance of body and mind. Tibetan texts mention this as attachment to visions and consider it a major obstacle to spiritual development. Authentic traditions always recommend a gradual approach, alternating activation with periods of integration, maintaining a balanced lifestyle, and working simultaneously on the entire energetic system. In this way, perception through the third eye stabilizes and risks drop significantly. Natural phenomena can subtly influence pineal activity and, implicitly, the sensitivity of inner perception. Some of these have been observed and used by ancient traditions, which synchronized rituals with astronomical or geophysical events to amplify states of consciousness. Eclipses, especially total eclipses, produce sudden changes in light and local electromagnetic conditions. During a solar eclipse, light intensity drops rapidly, and this contrast stimulates the pineal gland in a way similar to entering total darkness. Many ancient cultures held ceremonies during this moment, considering that the gate between worlds was easier to access. Geomagnetic storms, generated by solar activity, alter Earth's geomagnetic field. Modern studies show that these variations influence alpha and theta brain rhythms, associated with deep relaxation and visionary states. During periods of intense solar activity, some practitioners report clearer dreams, stronger intuition, and increased sensitivity in meditation. Planetary alignments in certain lunar phases, especially the full moon and the new moon, are correlated with subtle changes in gravitational and electromagnetic fields. In yogic traditions, meditations performed during these times are considered more effective because body and mind are more receptive. The full moon in particular is associated with an increase of energy in the higher centers, including the third eye area. In addition, moments such as equinoxes and solstices were used by megalithic civilizations for rituals of opening vision. The precise alignment of the sun's rays with sacred structures, such as at Stonehenge or Egyptian temples, created a combination of light and shadow that strongly stimulated inner attention. These phenomena create a favorable mental context, offering a feeling of connection with the great movements of the universe. Prepared practitioners use such moments to deepen meditation and experience higher levels of inner clarity. Controlling access to the knowledge and activation of the third eye has been a constant concern of religious, political, and initiatory structures throughout history. In many cultures, information about this center of inner perception was transmitted only to a small circle of initiates, protected by oaths and coded symbols. The reason was simple. Expanded perception offered not only wisdom, but also a form of spiritual independence that was difficult to control. In ancient Egypt, the mystery temples of Heliopolis or Luxor included spaces forbidden to the public where initiates were trained for years before receiving techniques for activating the inner eye. Knowledge was transmitted through symbolic hieroglyphs, and access to the chambers of light was strictly limited. In ancient Greece and Rome, the Eleusinian and Orphic mysteries concealed methods of inducing visionary states, and revealing them outside the initiatory circle was punished by death. This protection was not only about preserving power, but also about preventing misuse of the techniques. In medieval Europe, inner perception was associated with witchcraft or heresy. The Inquisition destroyed many manuscripts containing references to the eye of the soul, and practitioners were forced to transmit knowledge in secret, encoded in painting, architecture, and religious art. In the East, especially in Tibet and India, control was exercised through strict selection of disciples. Only those considered spiritually and mentally prepared received full initiation. Sacred texts were often written in coded language, using metaphors that could be understood only by someone who had reached a certain level of practice. In the modern era, control has taken subtler forms. Standard education gradually removed teachings related to inner perception, and some conspiracy theories claim that certain substances in food and the environment are used to reduce pineal sensitivity. In parallel, access to authentic information is often diluted into commercial material, preventing deep understanding. This history shows that the third eye has also been viewed as a key to inner freedom, and controlling it has meant controlling the individual. Recent scientific evidence and perspectives on the third eye come from a combination of neuroscience, medicine, psychology, and interdisciplinary studies exploring the link between consciousness and biology. The pineal gland, traditionally associated with this center, has been the subject of multiple investigations that have revealed unusual characteristics. Histological analyses have confirmed the presence in the pineal gland of microcrystals of calcite and apatite structures capable of producing piezoelectric effects, meaning they can generate electrical charges under mechanical pressure. This property could allow the gland to react to external or internal electromagnetic fields, an idea that opens discussion about perceiving subtle information. Functional MRI studies, fMRI, have shown that areas around the pineal gland activate during deep meditation, especially when combined with controlled breathing. In some experiments, practitioners with many years of meditative experience displayed brain activity patterns different from those of untrained subjects, including greater coherence between hemispheres. Neurochemical research has identified in the pineal gland substances such as serotonin, melatonin, and under special conditions, small amounts of N-dimethyltryptamine, DMT. This molecule, known for its psychedelic effects, has been detected in the brains of certain animals and is suspected to be present in humans as well, especially during birth, clinical death, or intense mystical experiences. In chronobiology, it has been observed that the pineal gland plays a central role in regulating circadian rhythm and in the body's responses to light-dark cycles. This sensitivity to light could explain why certain practices, such as dark retreats or meditations at sunrise and sunset, have profound effects on states of consciousness. On a theoretical level, some researchers in quantum physics and speculative neuroscience propose that the pineal gland could function as a kind of biological antenna for subtle informational fields. These hypotheses are not yet accepted by conventional science, but they are increasingly discussed in interdisciplinary circles studying consciousness. These findings do not confirm all claims of spiritual traditions, yet they show that there are biological and neurochemical mechanisms that can support, at least partially, the experiences described by practitioners throughout millennia. Diet plays an important role in supporting pineal function and, implicitly, in activating the third eye. Ancient traditions and modern studies converge on the idea that a balanced diet, with natural foods and as little processing as possible, can improve the sensitivity of this center. The first aspect is reducing calcium deposits in the pineal gland. Over time, this gland can accumulate calcium phosphate crystals, a phenomenon associated with diets high in additives, refined sugars, and fluoride. In many traditions, avoiding fluoridated water in toothpaste was considered a form of energetic protection, and today there are discussions in scientific circles about fluoride's impact on pineal tissues. Antioxidant-rich foods are considered essential for protecting and regenerating pineal tissue. Blueberries, blackberries, pomegranate, dark grapes, berries in general, and vegetables such as beetroot and carrots help neutralize free radicals and support neuronal health. Consuming tryptophan-rich foods supports the production of serotonin and melatonin, substances directly involved in pineal function. Natural sources include pumpkin seeds, walnuts, almonds, bananas, avocado, and legumes. Aromatic plants and spices have been used for centuries in rituals of purification and energetic stimulation. Turmeric, known for anti-inflammatory and detox-supporting effects. Ginger, holy basil, tulsi, and sage are frequently associated with supporting mental clarity and intuition. Healthy oils such as coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and hemp seed oil support brain function and efficient transmission of nerve impulses. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in ocean fish, flax seeds, and chia seeds, support the structure of neuronal cell membranes. Hydration is another key element. Purified or spring water, optionally energized, with a few quartz crystals left in sunlight for several hours, a traditional method in some cultures, is considered a form of subtle energizing. Intermittent fasting or short periods of juice fasting can stimulate cellular regeneration and enhance sensitivity of inner perception. In many traditions, before rituals of third eye activation, participants underwent a period of dietary purification precisely to clarify both body and mind. For millennia, the third eye has remained one of the most powerful symbols of the link between human beings and the universe. From the temples of ancient Egypt to Tibetan monasteries, from the initiatory mysteries of Greece to shamanic traditions in the most isolated corners of the world, it has been seen as a gateway to wisdom, clarity, and expanded perception. What was once offered only to those willing to undergo long stages of training is now available to anyone who cultivates attention, harmonizes body and mind, and is willing to consciously explore their own consciousness. Approaching this center can be done through meditation, through traditional methods preserved in initiatory lineages, or through techniques supported by modern research. The third eye is not only a biological structure, but a key to deep perception. Its activation brings more than inner visions. It triggers a process of personal transformation that changes how reality is perceived and one's place within it. The real power of the third eye expresses itself through the clarity to see what is essential, through understanding the invisible connections between events, and through recognizing the authentic nature of existence. This is an ongoing journey, enriched at every stage of self-knowledge, and it remains a deeply personal experience. If this documentary brought you valuable information and opened new perspectives, subscribe to stay up to date with upcoming materials, press the like button to support the work behind it, and consider becoming a member of the community for access to exclusive content and private discussions. Share this material with those who might be interested, so that knowledge can circulate and reach as many people as possible.